Hello and welcome to a long-awaited update of electric off-road and my Jimny project. It's been way too long, as I'm sure you're all thinking that it's been a long time. I moved into a new house, had to renovate it all, remodel everything, so this kind of just got sawn and parked up and I've not touched it for years. So now is about the time to crack on with it all. One of my friends owns a unit, so I sweet talked him into letting me bring it down here. And yeah, we're cracking on with the build. So as I'm sure you've noticed already, we've got a new logo. Yeah, a bit fancy, stepping it up into the proper world now. So yeah, you might be seeing a bit more of that around. Keep your eye out for it. Electric off-road. Yep. So a bit of an update then. What we got? The Jimny. It drove onto the trailer to get here and it drove itself off. So I couldn't really ask any more from that. It did quite good. And what have I done? I have ripped it all apart, as you do. So things I wasn't happy with, really. I wasn't happy with most of it. I was happy with how many batteries I got, the 9 modules. Things have changed. I don't need to go as far anymore. I built it for 150 miles. It doesn't really need to do that anymore. So would I have done it differently if I was doing it now? Absolutely. I would have put a Tesla motor in it, I think, as in the transfer case, and I would have gone for some smaller batteries that could put out the output needed for a Tesla motor. It would probably have worked out cheaper than using a HPV motor. The one we've got in here is an AC34. It's a very low volt system, and when I built it, I built everything for redundancy. So we have 3 packs in here of 3 Tesla modules, so 9 in total. Each one is 3 in series, and then each of these packs is then in parallel to each other. So effectively you could remove one of the packs and carry on driving. As it stands, I'm going to keep the 9 in for the moment, see how well it performs, see if I need the range of it, and if I don't, I can take a pack off and it will run exactly the same as what it did before, just at a reduced capacity. So what are we redoing at the moment then? So I've redone all this top perspex lid. We've got a nice little frame around it now, makes it a bit more secure. This is also really thick perspex that we've got in it now. It's got some fancy name, I can't remember. Let me spin you around, but hold it a bit easier. The back contactor box is gone, it looked crap. Replaced now this is where my brake booster's going. I've got 2 DC-DC converters there that are going to be mounted on the back portion there, and there is a nice space behind that I can tuck all my wiring loom. The brake lines also follow around there as well, which is nicely next to my brakes from the Jimny. I'm going to be running the original 12 volt battery just so it's acting as a bit of a buffer if I'm running some of the lights on the truck and other things. We've got the original fuse box here, and I'm going to be putting a auxiliary one just here for the 12 volt stuff that I'm adding to it, i.e. the brake boosters, the controller, 12 volts, and just things like that. I don't know if what you remember or when you last watched videos, but here we did used to have a big motor fan. Since speaking to a lot of people who've been running the HPV motors, they've not been running fans and they've never had any issues overheating. So it is something I've currently took off to free up a bit of space in the engine bay, but it is something that I could re-add later if I do need to. Also gone, as you'll notice, is my power steering pump, and that is because I am now running a manual power steering off of a Suzuki Samurai in here. I have had to modify it slightly and I'm still not quite happy with it. There's a bit more play in the steering than I'd like. But fingers crossed I can adjust that box up and everything will be running fine. The controller and the motor is exactly the same. The charger, we've had massive issues with the charger. I couldn't get it to work, I just couldn't. I have got it with me here, and once I've rewired everything, I'm going to have another go. I've got some experts standing on by who've got a lot of experience with the Elcon chargers. So fingers crossed we can get that running and get a charge in at 6.6 kilowatts. But as it stands at the moment, the batteries have been stood at about 45%, and with the BMS, the S-Simp BMS from Zero EV, they have the reading within like 0.001 volt of each other, so I'm more than happy with what the batteries are and what sort of what they're putting out and the voltages that they sat at. I'm quite happy with that. So moving a bit more inside, we have the switch arrangement here, which is all going to get changed. There was just some like fancy fighter pilot switches, that's all getting changed. I'm redoing all that there. Again, not happy with it. Everything was just controlled off a switch, so we're going to get a lot of automated stuff in here now. I'm going to take a ignition live off, and that's going to power on most of our contactors and stuff. We are now running also a manual transfer case. So manual transfer case in there. Reason being is that for some reason when I took out the engine, the four-wheel drive in this particular Jimny, being a 2005 to 17 until the new ones came out, they was on a push button four-wheel drive system. So that means that you just pushed a button and it went into two-wheel drive, pushed a button to four low, etc. I think there was something in the engine that prevented me from changing that, something that I'd taken out from going to the electric conversion. So to bypass a lot of problems, and what a lot of people do on the Jimny forums is, especially when fitting bigger tyres, because that's right, we're getting some big tyres on this, they fit the manual transfer cases because it's slightly lower geared, means that it'll help out the motor, help out when I've got the bigger tyres. Just lots of reasons really, and also I'll get around the way that with the switches before, it doesn't matter. I just bang it in like old school sort of stuff. I love old school manual steering, as you can see. So yeah, fingers crossed. That's going to answer a lot of our questions, that problems that we were having with the four-wheel drive system, because it was stuck in four-wheel drive basically. Now, luckily I have got manual freewheeling hubs on the front of this, so it didn't really matter too much when I was driving it on and off the transporter. It was in two-wheel drive. It was just spinning the front prop, but that's a problem that we don't have anymore. So you are going to be seeing a few more updates. I'll try my best to update you as and when, but I have been focused this last nearly 2 weeks now, 8 to 10 hours a day, constantly working on this. So fingers crossed, another week or two and we'll have it sussed and we'll get it there. A couple more updates that we're going to be doing is, I told you I redone my contactor box. So rough sort of outline of where things are going. Done away with the massive cable glands in favour of these slightly smaller ones, because again, because we've got 3 packs all in parallel, we've got a lot of cables coming into the front of here, and then a lot to try and get back into one with our contactors. We are running 2 contactors, a positive and a negative, and everything will come in here. It is very low voltage. Nominal voltage is about 66 volts. So this will positive come into here and clip onto this one. We'll then have a 600 plus amp fuse. I can't remember the exact rating of it. Positive out, and then our negative will connect onto here. I've got a lot of heat shrink, and everything's going to be heat shrunk inside it. So there's going to be nothing's going to ever possibly touch. And I'll be getting something called liquid electrical tape. That's a thing apparently. So that's coming. I'm going to be spraying up everything else. Not that they can touch, but I'm a kind of guy that just likes that extra bit. Like the redundancy of the batteries, for example, it's just one extra step that I can take, so I'm going to. And on one thing that has always worried me is the safety of if you're in some sort of collision in these DIY EVs, because they're not designed to be electric from the start, although we do have a big fuses and all the rest of it. I was always wanting extra. So as with a Tesla packs, they've each individual fuses. Off of each pack, I'm then going to be fitting a fuse on here that's accessible from the outside. So if I do need to isolate one of the batteries for whatever reason, I can literally, if there's been a rear collision, for instance, I can get out the vehicle, undo a couple of bolts, nuts and bolts, take out the fuse for the rear pack. This will also be the same if there's in any sort of collision and it shorts out, it will just blow this fuse straight away. And then the rear pack is isolated. Completely safe, carry on driving somewhere safe and get picked up. So them 3 fuses in each of the batteries, they're all going to be higher rated than the main fuse, because it's the main fuse that will be designed to blow first. Not that we should ever be pulling that high amps, because it's only 48 horsepower, so I don't think it's going to be blowing big fuses anytime soon. But that is my update with my electric Jimny Conversion. So fingers crossed, we'll be seeing some more of each other.